So Erling Haaland has basically been talked about as the main option since mid-January, I think, is when I first heard reports about Chelsea being actually interested in, from a serious source in Simon Johnson. And it sort of hasn't stopped since then. But then it felt like this weekend, after being sort of suggested as sort of maybe an option, a dream option, Lukaku's name has been brought up by the likes of Matt Law. If I had my choice, right, and I know most people would not do this, I would prioritise Romelu Lukaku. Because I think it's the closest thing you can get to a safe bet, a sure bet. I have so much confidence
100%,
that Lukaku would come in and win us the Premier League. It's a Diego Costa level signing for me. It's a guy who, you look at this guy's career.
I think it's better.
Yeah, but I think just in terms of the trajectory of his career, you look at where he's gone, what he's done, how he's moulded his game to a point now of basically perfection. The type of goals he scores in Serie A are much closer to the type of goals he'd be scoring in the Premier League. On top of that, you add his Premier League experience, the amount of goals he scored in the Premier League already. There's no fear of him coming into the league and being shocked by it. And as you say, if you were to match up defensively, Italy to England, it's a lot more closer than, of course, Germany to England, in terms of the space that someone like Werner would get. I'm not comparing Werner and Lukaku because, of course, very different players, but any concern you'd have on Haaland maybe coming to the league and being shocked by low blocks every week, I don't think you'd have the same fear with Lukaku. And also just sentimental sense, I think narratively it's a bit of a full arc, isn't it, in terms of his career. It's a complete circle, and I think that for him, coming back to the club that he was supposed to be the next big thing, it didn't work out. He went to Everton, he proved himself. He went to Man United, he proved himself for about 2 seasons, and then Jose got sacked, and then they didn't want him anymore. But he's gone to Inter, finally playing under Antonio Conte, and he's the focal point now, and he's going to win them the Scudetto for the first time in what feels like quite a while. 10 years. So I just think, once again, we're going at safe bets here. I think that obviously Erling Haaland, who doesn't want Haaland? At the moment, it's Haaland and Mbappe. If you get one of those two players, you suspect if they continue on the same trajectory, they're going to be the big world stars for the next 10 years. But when I look at Lukaku, I just think it feels like the perfect fit for me. I can't resist Romelu Lukaku. I think he's the guy that I'm prioritising. Also, I think it may be more realistic to sign Lukaku than Erling Haaland. Also, you don't have Raiola anymore in the picture, do you? Because he's not. I don't think Raiola's Lukaku's agent anymore.
No, he's not. I watch Inter Milan every week, right? So that I'm naturally a bit more biased. I actually think Lukaku's had a better season than Haaland as well. Just for anyone listening, Lukaku's played 43 games this season. He's got 34 goals and 9 assists. Haaland's got 43 goals and 6 assists in 41 games as well. And he's had an amazing Champions League campaign. The thing that makes me want Lukaku more than Haaland, firstly, is 100% we know he's going to come to Premier League and score 20 goals. It's literally not a debate. He'd done it at Everton, he'd done it at West Brom, he'd done it at Man United. He literally just scores goals. He's ridiculous. Over 300 career goals, and he's 27. That's consistent excellence. Haaland is going to be a star. He already is a star, but he has not done it for as long as Lukaku has. I think Haaland, especially with the Aguero news, is going to go City, if I'm honest. Is what it is. And the difference between the two for me, and this is I try and watch Dortmund often. I don't always. I do watch Inter Milan all the time. Haaland is almost like a vacuum, okay? So when the whole attack is constructed on getting the ball to Haaland, whereas with Lukaku, it's not that way. Lukaku plays with Lautaro off of him, and he understands the importance of using that player. And what Lukaku could do with Kai and Timo is more than what Haaland would do, because Haaland would simply turn those players into facilitators for him, whereas Lukaku would facilitate them and allow them to facilitate him, I think, based off of how much I've watched him play. And yeah, but he's just like, I think he's more willing to play the pass than Haaland. And, it's a striker's instinct for goals. I understand that. Like, Haaland does nothing wrong ever. But I think it's more realistic. It's more affordable. You know what's going to happen. It's a nice career arc. He is, I think, the third or fourth best striker in the world, Lukaku, behind Kane and Lewandowski, and then I'd have him and Haaland as battling out for third. And he's gone to Inter, and his development in terms of mentality, understanding, ability, confidence, leadership is just amazing. And if he wins the Scudetto with Inter, which he will, I mean, coming back to Chelsea to win the Premier League is just going to be a beautiful scene, and that for me. But one thing, because I know we've banged on a bit, like Aguero is going to go on a free. I would take Aguero over Giroud. That would be his role for me.
Yeah, I mean that's the role I'd take. He would not be. He's not.
He's just injured too much.
Yeah,
his quality is good enough, but his injury.
He scored. I couldn't believe this. He scored one Premier League goal this season, and that was in City's last Premier League game against Fulham, I think. He's only made about, I think, 8 appearances in the Premier League this season. He's been injured. That's my concern with Aguero. I think his injury record, if he isn't playing week in, week out, then maybe he may stay fit. But I mean, you just look at his injury record over his career. He had a few years, I think it was the 2 years City won the league recently, where he didn't have that many injury problems. But I can think back 7 years ago, and usually you would lose him for at least 2 months a season. You're guaranteed with Aguero, especially at this age as well, especially the season he's just had. You have to understand you can't rely on him for 9 months. I think it's sort of the concern about Harry Kane at the moment as well, is you have to sort of understand that there is a risk you're going to lose him for about sometimes 1 or 2 months a season, and sometimes they're those months that are most crucial in a season. Kane, for some reason, each year seems to get an injury around January, February time, when you really need a goal scorer more than ever, and that's been the issue that Spurs have found. So I would take Aguero simply on the fact that it's Sergio Aguero.
But yeah, Lukaku, I'm on my knees for Lukaku to join the club again. Like, for some reason, I've always had it in my head that he kind of doesn't like Chelsea, but I know that
I have as well. I've had this feeling that he would stick 2 fingers up to Chelsea.
Yeah, me too. But
that would be my mentality. I'd think, well, no, you didn't want me 7 years ago, so I'll just go elsewhere and continue to prove that I'm the best.
He's matured. Like he has to understand that at that point that you can't play him over Diego Costa. You can't play him over Drogba. He has to understand that, and he does. It's what I'm saying now. The way he carries himself and the way he understands.
The way the attack is currently being used under Tuchel, it looks much more fluid without a natural number 9. Do you think that it would need to be tweaked for a Lukaku or Haaland?
I think the fluidity would just flow around that central position. To be honest. And there's no doubt that Lukaku bullies defenders. Like, he is a bully on the pitch. And he's like, the most underrated thing, 2 most underrated things about Lukaku are his crossing and long passing, which are outstanding if you watch him regularly. But the thing is as well, can you imagine, like, Reece James would not be getting robbed of assists?
Oh man, that would be, that's, you just brought it up, that would be a prime reason to bring in Lukaku. Could you imagine the amount of goals we'd score with Reece as a wing back or as a right back crossing into Lukaku, and the relationship those two could form? It would be wonderful.